So, good day, everyone. Today, we are going to talk about creativity and artificial intelligence, particularly if it is true that some forms of creativity are easier to replicate for artificial intelligence. Is that true?
Yes, it is, and I think you know there are examples
Mm-hmm.
where AI has already expressed some sort of form of creativity, and others where it is much more challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, when it comes to playing games,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm talking about chess, I'm talking about video games as well as Go.
Mm-hmm.
Already, we can acknowledge very promising results. It's much more challenging in music and text, for instance, but
Mm-hmm.
there are technologies like GPT-3, technology developed by OpenAI, funded by
Mm-hmm.
Elon Musk, that are they are cracking the harder knots, like for instance automatic document generation. But
Mm-hmm.
I would like to bring to your attention and to the attention of our audience one example which really gained a lot of attention in 2016. We're talking here about the Chinese game of Go. This is a
Mm-hmm.
very complex game. Sorry, very complex game, a game that has almost infinite number of moves. Okay, and what happened in 2016 was pretty extraordinary because AlphaGo, an algorithm trained
Mm-hmm.
by DeepMind, DeepMind is a Google company, was playing against the world champion at the time. And the name of the world champion was Lee Sedol. So
Mm-hmm.
in the most famous move, which is move 37, the AlphaGo algorithm, uh, played a move that no human would have ever think of doing. Okay, so this was pretty extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why it was imaginable is that essentially the the human in front of AlphaGo obviously had some biases and some priors.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not an expert in Go, but the expert said that AlphaGo, being unbiased, was able
Mm-hmm.
to come up with a move that essentially broke all the rules of the game, but that made perfect sense in that specific context and situation.
Mm-hmm.
So isn't that fascinating, Michelle?
That is indeed very fascinating. But yes, I really like that you make it very clear that AlphaGo and indeed just the game of Go in chess, they play within a certain set of parameters that even though there are an infinite amount of moves, these moves can be predicted, right? So it is really taking advantage of the processing power behind AlphaGo, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because for 3,000 years, people played they played Go,
Go.
and they played Go in a certain way, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
because it is humans playing against humans. The most interesting thing, actually, Michelle, was that in game four, the
Mm-hmm.
world champion Lee Sedol then
Mm-hmm.
started to essentially fight AlphaGo with the
Uh-huh.
same weapons. So he started to um, play moves in the
Mm-hmm.
same way played by AlphaGo. So essentially, actually, there is a move called Move 78 that in which Lee Sedol reciprocated the same kind of moves that AlphaGo was playing at the beginning of the match. So the process has already been
Yeah.
started in the sense that AlphaGo has already changed the way um, people are playing
Mm-hmm.
the game of Go.
That's really interesting. And also just the fact that the person playing against AlphaGo was just like, okay, I figured it out. So this is something that I can do. That's it's quite a testament to human intelligence as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were mentioning in when we were prepping this session that you discovered a lot of interesting things about music and about automatically
Yes.
generated audio.
Yeah, indeed. So the thing about creativity is that we think of it as this very general term, but the reality is that when you really look at creativity, it goes into different domains, right? So there's creativity in writing, there's creativity that physicists would call an equation as being elegant. That in of itself is a certain type of creativity. And then there's creativity in music. Now, the thing is, some forms of creativity, because they have patterns, that's easier to learn, right? So that's the case with chess, that's the case with Go, and to some degree, that is the case with music. Historically, if you look at the music and the type of things that we have liked, like the big hits,
Hmm.
it's really interesting because when you look at the research, there are certain melodies that we hear all the time, right?
Yeah,
And there are certain melodies that we always use in like the production of movies and television because we have understand that people really like these kind of things. Yeah, so this is slightly harder to replicate because in the same way that we can predict interest via other people's interests and like historical interests, it is also the case that it's hard for us to say if we present something that's different, if people will actually like it, right? Because
absolutely.
that's still kind of a subjective, and not everybody is of the same culture, of the same background. But yeah,
But
it's fairly
you
interesting.
know, as a machine learning engineer, I would object that at the end of the day, with a big enough amount of data, you could learn those
Hmm.
models that can predict human preference. You know, even if that human
Yes.
preference is so nuanced and so uh,
Yes.
you know bound or linked to a
Hmm.
specific cohort of people. Anyway, listen, this is a fascinating topic. We absolutely need to dedicate another
Hmm.
episode on this. In the meantime, I would like to thank you, Michelle,
Hmm.
and ask our audience to follow our social channels and to like these episodes if they appreciate it. And yeah, we will see you on in the next one.
Thank you.
Bye bye.